Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Darkness to Love and Light. Today, this is actually part 2 of a conversation that I had with Janice Formichella, and she is back today with me. And today we're going to be talking about estrangement. If you have not had the chance to listen to our first podcast together, really, it's about her life with breakup and just a whole pile of stuff that she had gone through. But I swear to God, anybody going through anything in life would gain something from listening to that interview. So please do yourself a favor. It was released on September 27th, and it's available in all the major podcast stations, as well as the live, not live, but the video recorded version on YouTube as well. So anyway, welcome, Janice, back to the show. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. Thanks for having me on and to talk about such an important topic.
Yeah. And it's, I was just saying, like, obviously we record things in advance, but with the American Thanksgiving holidays coming up in a week and a bit now, and Christmas holidays coming up very soon, we're hoping that I'm hoping that I'm going to get this out in time so that it will be a benefit for everybody. What Janice has to share or whatever about her story on estrangement. So anyway, I will let you go ahead, honey.
Thank you. Let me know where you'd like me to start or anything that you'd like me to make sure to cover. I just came up on exactly 2 years of complete estrangement from my family. One, if not the main reason that this all happened, is I was raised in the LDS/Mormon faith. I am also the oldest of 7 children. I really knew from a very young age that I didn't probably want to stay Mormon. And if I did, I definitely didn't want to live in either Arizona or Utah. I always felt a bit of rebellion inside of me.
Right.
Which made things very challenging as somebody who was really ambitious and a bit of an overachiever, and also growing up in a very, very, very insular Mormon community, because I would rebel a little bit, and it really became also like community knowledge that I had done this or that. And I developed some pretty severe mental health issues for a young teenage girl, which looking back, I just, want to pick her up and hug her, because all I really wanted to do was be myself. And I just felt so suffocated within the community and feeling like everybody was watching me constantly, which they were. Long story short, I suppose, I ended up going to Brigham Young University, which was definitely the end of the end as far as my involvement with the church goes, if not the real hard beginning of the end, because I never really wanted to go to BYU, and I always wanted to go to college, though. And even maybe more than even wanting to go to college was desperately wanting to get out of the home in which I was raised. It wasn't a happy childhood. I really don't look back thinking immediately of all the happy memories. Yes, there were some, and especially food. The Mormons know how to cook, and we would definitely. That is one thing I will say.
For that.
Oh, there's a lot of them. And I went to Brigham Young University because my parents came to me during my senior year of high school and said that there would be only 2 options for me as far as college goes: staying at home, going to a local school, not an option like for even a second in my mind, or going to BYU. So I chose the option that would take me away from the home, being though really heartbroken. And this was really emblematic of the way that I was raised, and my parents' outlook on life is it wasn't really about my success or my goals, my dreams, even my happiness. It was just about making sure that I stayed in the church and that we kept up appearances. Nobody knowing me growing up would have said that BYU was going to be a good fit for me. Nor was it aligned with any of my goals as a young woman. And that was really not on their mind. And so I go there, and I mean, talk about the backlash of their lives because they are thinking me going to BYU is going to probably keep me in the church because I'd still be around only Mormons. And it did the absolute opposite. I was so miserable. And if my mental health issues were a problem when I was in high school, everything just started getting worse and worse. Let's just put it that way. I started to be really desperate to receive treatment. I started cutting, all of the things that a lot of depressed young girls do.
Yeah.
And I kept on getting sick. I had always been an honor roll student in high school.
Oh, wow.
I ended up actually flunking out of some classes, and it got to the point where I was so miserable, and I really couldn't get my parents to realize that. I desperately did not want to go back. And so during Christmas break one year, I decided to drop out. And this was kind of the beginning of also my on and off estrangement with my parents, because they weren't having it. They tried everything they could do to get me to go back. And then when I more or less refused, they told me I couldn't even stay at their house. And I was only 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up dropping out. I kind of floundered for a little while, got a job as a waitress, that type of thing. Started experimenting with things that I'd never even been exposed to before. And I did end up meeting somebody, a non-Mormon. We got together. I did end up going back to college. I'm an ASU graduate. College was amazing. And 20 years later, we were never really able to get back on the same page. One of the things that really, really either led to this or, I would say lead to this. When I was going to Arizona State, I was highly, highly, highly successful. I had already left the church. This is true, which my parents were kind of aware of. We didn't really talk about it a lot. I was so happy, probably the happiest that I'd ever been in my life. And I loved the university environment. I discovered feminism. I was taking all of these cool classes, thinking about these things for the first time. I mean, as a Mormon girl, you're like, feminism, oh, how scary. But, so many things about life in the world were clicking for me. And one night my parents come over and tell me that they'd like to visit my boyfriend and I, which was a little weird. They'd never done that before.
Okay.
They say they're on a date night and that this is what they want to do for their date, is to stop by and say hi to us. And the real reason that they were there is to tell me that because I had been taking women's studies classes at ASU, that I was now being disinherited and that I was not going to have access to any of my trust fund, any support from them, money that had been passed down that from, generations that was in my name. They had somehow finagled to, revoke my access to, and they just let me know that, I was being cut off. Oddly enough, they still expected us to have a relationship, which goes to also show you, I don't know if it's narcissism or just complete out of touch with reality and the impact of, the consequences of their actions. But I was so shocked and devastated. And I guess, I don't know if I would say I was full of rage. I was just stunned that a parent would go out of their way to sabotage a child that's happy. When I thought of how I was when I was going to BYU compared to how I was when they sat down and told me I was having the money stripped away from me. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel emotional now because it was just complete 180. Like I am
Yeah.
sitting there involved in activities, happy, not struggling with my mental health, in a good relationship, going to family dinners with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And for them to not just be glad, like she's safe, she's not going to harm herself. And just,
Right.
we don't like these classes she's taking. So then we didn't talk for about 3 years. And ever since then, it's kind of gone on and off. We don't talk for a few years. I would try to make things better. You sometimes just fell out of touch, which that
Right.
was hurtful to me as well, because, I was in Australia for 5 years, for instance. They barely
Right.
reached out to me. I think sometimes they didn't even know what country I was in, which was hard for me to take. And then,
Of course.
yeah, I moved back to the States about 4 years ago, tried once again to make things work, telling myself, you actually only do have one family. Yes, people use the term chosen family, which is lovely for some people, but you only have one family, like a biological family. And I just thought, I should really give this one more go of it. And I mean, if I thought things had been hard with them for the last 20 years, it was even worse. I mean, there was just incident after incident after incident, and it got to the point where it was so damaging for me to be around them, yes, but even be in touch with them, that I decided I needed to do this. There was just the highest levels of rejection, abandonment, mistreatment, and it was, like I said, weighing on me. Even sometimes when I wouldn't see them, it would just be the communication that would completely tear me apart. I tried to get one of my siblings to advocate for me. All of them refused to get involved. So about 2 years ago, rather than just kind of falling out of touch, I decided, yes, to take the action to get in touch with them and let them know that we're done.
Right.
And like, please don't contact me. And I'm walking away for these reasons.
Right.
And it was hard. The first year was, I struggled with a lot of depression, partially because of just realizing how little I was wanted by my own family, and partially because of being just kind of messed up, having made such a decision, partially because of what happened the last time I saw them. And it's gotten easier and easier. This year, I decided to be an advocate or a voice for other people who are estranged from their families, which has been great for me. And this past year was a lot easier. But I'm here because, I know that for some people, this is not only a valid choice, but maybe the most important thing that you can do for your well-being.
Right.
2, I know how hard it is. And so I really want to be out here and let anyone listening who's in such a toxic or dysfunctional family to know, if you want to think about creating distance with your family, you are, that's very, very valid.
Right.
And there's more of us out there. I think right now people are talking about family estrangement a lot, but before it was this really taboo topic. And there wasn't a lot of people out there saying publicly that I've decided to cut my parents off. So here I am, and I did. And it was definitely the right choice for me. I think about, like the 2 years before I did this compared to the 2 years since I've done it. And it's better. And that is really sad. And it's not my fault. I didn't do anything to cause this. I just know that it was the right choice for me. I've been more calm. My self-confidence has gone up. I've just been happier day to day. And I'm solid with my decision for sure.
Well, I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
That's
it was
such
rough.
a tough thing to do. Oh my God, no kidding. I mean, and I understand it. It's like, I think, I get it. Like my relationship with my parents wasn't the greatest. And I would be always like trying to like please them and make them happy and buy gifts, like, special things or whatever. Like I remember when I think I was 16 years old and I was working just part-time in a little convenience store or whatever. And it was their, I guess it must have been, I don't even know if it was their 20th. No, it couldn't have been. Or maybe it was their 18th or something wedding anniversary. I don't know what it was, but it was their anniversary. And I went out and I bought these beautiful silver champagne glasses with gold inside. And it was from a company called Burke's, which was, I don't know if Burke's was in the States or not, but they were a high-end jewelry store. And I bought these beautiful champagne glasses. And I remember giving it to them. And then, like, the next day or later that day or something, they just treated me like shit again or whatever. And I'm like, just why do I keep doing this to myself? Like, but it's really taking me a whole lifetime to understand my worth. And it doesn't matter if they're related to you or not. They're just another human being that happens to be on this planet that you happen to share the same DNA with. But doesn't mean that they're
and I want to tell people
perfect.
What I came to realize. What was that?
That doesn't mean that they're perfect or anything. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to have them in your life,
Well, and it doesn't, people used to push back on this a lot, not as much now, but it doesn't even mean that they love you.
Right.
In my case, I don't feel that they do. It's easy, of course, I'm sure, for everybody, especially in my immediate family, to say, yes, of course, we love her. But they don't. I mean, none of their actions indicated even any care or concern for me.
Right.
I mean, going 5 years without anybody reaching out, knowing where I am, it's just actions do speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
And just because they're your parents doesn't mean they care for your well-being. It doesn't mean they love you. For a long time, and this is kind of sad, for a long time, and now, up to this point, I would say that I was the throwaway child. I mean, that's a horrible way to, go about, not really go about life, but it's a horrible thing to have in your mind when you are attempting to have, resolution with your family. I do still feel that way because, I mean, that's kind of what they've done to me. Yeah. But it doesn't get me down the way that it used to. I've had friends tell me, I don't know how I could ever get over feeling that I was the throwaway child. And it took me a while, but ultimately being away from them and realizing, okay, they've thrown me away. I took power into my own hands, set a hard boundary. And it actually, now my confidence has soared because of it. And you know what? F him. I'm a good person. I tried my best. I have complete and utter closure over this situation and my role in it. And I'm not going to let them control how I feel about myself anymore.
No. Good. Because, I mean, damn well that anytime that you stay in a situation like that, with no matter who it is, whether it be parents, siblings, relatives of whatever nature, friends even that you've been like maybe had all your life and all of a sudden you had to, break away from for whatever reason. It doesn't mean like as long as you're staying in it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. As long as you're staying in it, you're just going to continuously get hurt because they've done it to you all this time and they've disrespected you, however many times. Maybe it was once, maybe it was twice, maybe it was constant. But that behavior won't ever change.
Just like a romantic relationship that is emotionally or otherwise abusive. I realized that I have stayed in an abusive relationship before, and a lot of the patterns were similar. Every time that you let them do this and they realize that they can get away with more and more, I would never tell a friend of mine or a client, I'm a breakup coach, I would never tell a friend or client of mine who was in this type of romantic situation to just like keep on trying to make it work and showing up more and seeing what you could do to
exactly
to keep the relationship going. So
Yeah,
why is my family allowed to get away with it?
that's right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the key thing. I think that there's so many families that are probably so many people that are in families like that that probably want to get out but have no clue in how to do it because it just doesn't seem right. It's okay to move away from a relationship like a
Yep,
boyfriend or whatever.
exactly.
But yeah, how do you get away from your family? Like, I mean, it's so what's the advice that what would you
Yeah.
tell somebody?
Hmm. And anybody who is curious about estrangement or just going through it and wants
Hmm.
to let me know, please hit me up on Instagram. I really,
Yeah.
really want to support people and let them know that you are definitely not alone. I'm a stable
Yeah.
person. This was not a rash decision,
Yeah.
and so please come and connect with me. Everybody's situation is different. So I
Sure.
will first say I'm not necessarily an advocate for go no contact with your dysfunctional family. There are ways to go about this and different things that you can try out before you get
Hmm.
to this point. The first one being learn to have boundaries. That is a lot easier said than done for people who are
Yep.
in dysfunctional families or
Hmm.
dealing with emotionally immature parents, which is absolutely my situation. So,
Yeah.
but start there. Consider what your boundaries are and then how
Hmm.
you will go about executing them. Another
Hmm.
choice is to create distance and space and maybe say twice a year I will go to this or that event, and the rest of the time I need to not 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 engage in person with them.
Yeah.
So see how all of these things work, and then do what you can do to maintain some contact and perhaps keep them in your life before, yes, you get to the point of cutting them off
Hmm.
entirely. And for some people that's what you might end up needing to do. I can't imagine having them in my life at all. I did
Right.
all of these things. I mean, this was 20 years in the making. I tried setting boundaries. I tried talking to my parents and my siblings about how I would be treated when I was in the home.
Hmm.
I would ask even my dad to advocate for me because in our family thread, people were bullying me. And so I attempted the boundaries, then I attempted the distance, and for me, nothing worked. I will
Hmm.
also say, if you are considering moving in this direction, don't do it after some type of big, huge incident. Don't do it in the
Okay.
heat of the moment, is also one of my big pieces of advice. If there is some sort of like big blow up or confrontation, let all the dust settle from that first before you start thinking about what the next step is, because this
Mm.
is a life altering decision and it's not
Right.
one to make in the heat of the moment, and it's not one to make from a reactionary standpoint. You need to sit
Right.
back objectively and look at your options before you before you make
Take that
decisions
leap
that
or whatever.
will
Yeah.
alter your life and your relationship with these people,
Right.
forever.
I mean, I think it takes obviously it's the bigger person that has to do that, right? But you, it takes a lot of control, but you know what you're dealing with when you're in that situation. You know the people that you're dealing with. So yeah, that is really good advice because it's those type of people, if you make a rash decision, they're going to hold that over your head forever.
Hmm.
So, at least if you're kind of going at it, okay, like I'm not going to, make this rash decision right this second. It gives you time to think about it. Then they've forgotten, and then they may not see it coming when you've made that choice to step away
Yeah.
or back away, right? Like
I
when,
I took
yeah.
um 2 months before I wrote the letter. I saw my parents and there was an incident, and I was absolutely like shell shocked from the
Mm,
situation, and I thought, well, let me see either if I calm down from this and how I
hmm.
feel, in a month or two, and also if they get in touch with me, which
Right.
nobody ever did, but I just You know,
You're
I
still
just thought
waiting for it because you're human.
this, yeah, right, exactly. And the situation had been so serious but also so one-sided on their, with their behavior, and me just kind of sitting there and having this thing happen to me, more or less, that I thought, well, I would like to see if they get in touch before I make any big decisions about this. And of
Right.
course they didn't. And it weighed on me and weighed on me and weighed on me. And ultimately, just like similarly to when I left the Mormon church, when I had this just moment of complete clarity over walking away from the LDS faith. And then when I decided that it was time to cut my family off, it was just this moment of, this is the answer. This is the solution. And this is going to make me happier over time. And the church didn't want me, and neither did my family. So,
I mean, it's hard though. It hurts, it really, it's unbelievable to think that people could be so cold-hearted. Like, it just
I
is
agree.
unbelievable. I know.
And for the first little while, and you know what, come to think of it, when I left my abuser, I would hesitate to talk about it because the stories were just so extreme. I was almost like, are people going to believe this? And then it's similar to my situation with my family, is some of the stories are so upsetting that even some of my best friends don't know a lot of them, because I keep on thinking people are going to doubt my side of things or my version of things, or think that I must have done something to provoke this. And the truth is, no. I mean, you really can have families that are this enmeshed and this dysfunctional, and who will choose a scapegoat and treat them accordingly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And also, and they reinforce it too, because family enmeshment is very dysfunctional. It's definitely my family's situation. And because they're constantly reinforcing their treatment, I mean, honestly, I would imagine some of my siblings don't even realize how bad it's gotten and how wrong it is. I don't give my parents the same benefit of the doubt,
right?
But just if you are in that insular of a family, and I mean, some of them only communicate with each other, I think that it can be easy to not realize how horrible the treatment has gotten, especially when you leave the church, because a lot of people have blamed a lot of the things that have happened to me in my life, or that I've navigated in my life, with my decision to walk away. And so I think that it's easy for them to blame me for everything that's happened because of choices like that I've made in my life.
Right. But it's crazy. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just a sad thing. It really is a sad thing. And I mean, you can't, you can do all you want, but you can't make somebody love you. And I think that is one of the hardest realizations that you have to come to in your life, especially when you love someone so, so much and it's just not returned. And you're just like, I don't understand. Like, what did I do? And you know full well you haven't done anything, but it's realizing that there's a reason that they can't love you, because there's something going on with them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have been able to look back and kind of pinpoint a couple of those things, which does, I have sympathy, especially for my dad. He's a sixth generation Mormon and came from a big family, and I don't think felt favored in his household. And so maybe was a little bit out of touch with how to provide that for his own children. And I can definitely see some of that. I also think when you decide to be a parent, you take certain things on, such as supporting your children.
Right.
And especially when, there was just time and time again that I tried to make it work. At a certain point, it does become a conscious choice that you are making.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
mean, there was a lot of things that were very intentional on their part. I mean, during the
Mm.
pandemic, they had a family reunion, didn't even tell me. Like,
Mm.
just things that are just so out there as far as
Right.
how you would treat a child who is trying so hard to show up for their family. That,
Right.
yeah, shocking. I mean, I've had people in tears telling them some of the stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can
Exactly.
only give people the benefit of the doubt and forgive so many times. Anytime I
Absolutely.
did go to Utah, I would come back and it would take me, like a couple of weeks to recover from being around them.
Mm.
And I, at the
Right.
time, didn't have resources. I didn't have a therapist. So I would come
Right.
back just feeling completely shattered, just like
Sure.
constantly playing catch up every time I would be around them, because
Yeah.
I would come back depressed and, feeling
Yeah.
rejected and abandoned. And, life is too short for that.
Absolutely. It
Mhm.
really is. And it's, I mean, it's the hardest thing that you've had to do probably in your life, I'm sure. But you've done the right thing because of just look, you can't live through the rest of your life feeling like that, being with them and then having that, because eventually that's just going to take its toll on you, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to make you sick, like really sick, and
Mhm.
you, it's, first of all, let me just say that the issue is with them. It's not that you're not lovable. You are lovable. They just don't know how to love.
Mhm.
That's the issue. It's nothing to do with you. They're just incapable. They need to find a way to deal with their issues. But
Yeah.
you are lovable, and you
Thank you.
you deserve to be loved. And if that love comes strictly from yourself to yourself,
Mhm.
then that so be it. But knowing that you are loved because you love yourself enough to walk away from all of that shit.
Thank you. And I do have
Mm.
a great relationship with myself. Definitely, one of my own soulmates and, my own best company and all of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, definitely played a role in me deciding to walk away, because of just
Yeah.
knowing I'm a lovely person and I simply don't deserve this. And I do
Yeah.
think one of the big reasons, like going back to, again, my having grown up in the Mormon church, I just really don't think, because of being so many generations in to the faith and knowing very few non-Mormons still to this day, having siblings well into their 30s who haven't really had relationships with very many people outside of the church. I just
Mm,
think it's very hard for them to come to the of a place of feeling like they can relate to me.
for sure. Because
And
they're living in a
which
totally different environment, right? Like it's not normal. They're not
mhm,
worldly at all. Like they're just living in
right.
this little tiny bubble kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, the expectation of them to understand is forget it.
Yeah,
It's not
like
going to
forget about
happen.
it.
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
very judgmental of people outside of the faith too. And I feel like that's probably why I was chosen as the scapegoat in my family,
Mm,
because they
right.
get to put all of that judgment now on a family member, which,
Right.
in some ways, I mean, it's like sort of a form of victim blaming, and it makes the
Yeah.
person doing it feel better. It makes sense to them that things are, in religious communities, things are very black and white. And so
Yeah.
the fact that I don't have a relationship with them and that I've had struggles in my life, that makes sense, because,
Mm,
like I was saying earlier, my life choices. But
yeah.
regardless of their motivation, I enough was enough. And yeah, that
Yeah.
was almost exactly 2 years ago.
Wow. This
Hmm.
is a
Yep.
really heavy time of year. I don't know.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it is for
Hmm.
me for personal reasons and for you. And like, I don't know. It just seems to be a very heavy time of year for a lot of people. Um, and I guess that with that in mind, my question to you is, with the holidays coming up
Okay.
and after the very first year of like going through your birthday and the holidays and all of those big normally family events, how did you handle that? What did you do?
Well, making plans for
Yeah.
sure. And I did have one Thanksgiving, I live in Denver. When I first moved here, that I was alone. It was
Mm-hmm.
before I had decided to go no contact with my family, but I
Mm-hmm.
had a real intuition that I should not travel to Utah for
Right.
Thanksgiving for whatever reason. And so I decided to stay home, and I just made a bunch of plans for myself.
Mm,
What
good.
movies I was going to watch, a special bottle of whiskey, a gluten-free pumpkin cake, and just made activities for myself. It definitely, it helped a lot, and also
Mm-hmm.
gave me something to look forward to, which that's one of
Right.
the most important things during the
Mm-hmm.
holidays, is making sure that you're anticipating something fun for
Right.
even if you're going to be completely alone. If
Yeah.
you have friends, be proactive and intentional and make plans with them, even if
Yeah.
it's maybe not necessarily having Thanksgiving dinner, but all hanging out and watching movies. Just try and have company. But even if you don't have the company of someone else, be your own best company. And
Yeah.
then I will also say definitely Christmas and my birthday have been triggers,
Yeah.
largely because of horrible things that happened regarding or involving my family on both days.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that the trick for me was to travel on Christmas and
Mm.
my birthday. And so
Okay.
that's what I do. And I go on my own solo trips always. I travel to Arizona, and I go and stay at a ranch in Tombstone, and get out of my environment, go and do something that's kind of funky, and
Cool.
yeah, and enjoy it in my own way.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
Exactly.
another great thing about both being single. I'm not single, but I have a very supportive partner.
Mm-hmm.
And deciding to create space with your parents is, I have to say, a lot of people feel obligated to have certain holidays with their family and
Yeah.
dread it and don't
Yep.
want to do it and feel that they have to. If you can get to the point where you can accept and own that this is your holiday, this does not belong to your family, this does not belong
Right.
to your parents, and that you can actually go and choose to do something different, you will
Mm-hmm.
probably be amazed at how liberating
Liberating.
that feels, and
Yeah.
also how much more fun your holidays are going to be.
Yeah.
And again, for anybody being faced with the decision around estrangement, maybe this could be the first step, is that just saying, I don't want to have holidays with them anymore, and see
Right.
the difference that makes. Whew.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be all like, whatever. They're all going to be freaking out, talking to shit
Yeah, maybe.
and about you, at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to listen to any of the crap, and you're doing something that's just giving you peace. So
Yeah.
you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I won on this day.
Yes, it's definitely been the secret to having wonderful holidays and not finding
Yeah.
myself triggered and then falling into depression, which
Yeah.
I've, sadly, or I don't know, for better or worse, held on to a lot of mental health issues that I first started being faced with as a teenager. I've gotten to
Hmm.
the point where I manage it really, really well. And
Right.
one way I do that is knowing my triggers. And I found
Yeah.
that Christmas and my birthday, no matter how many things I planned for myself,
Yeah.
it sent me into a spiral. And the last
Hmm.
time it happened, I thought, got to take matters into your own hands.
Yeah.
And what would make you happy to do on Christmas? And I'm like, a dude ranch. So
That's
that's what I
cool.
do now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
I love
awesome.
like the Wild West and cowboy stuff. Yeah.
Right. Just like roping, riding the
Yeah.
cow. Right? No, not the cow, the bull thing or whatever that is. Oh my God.
Oh, I don't do that, but I do go horseback riding. And yeah, it's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's just it's so powerful that you're able to do that. And I just, I love that you're able to help people through different situations, like whether it be, I mean, breakups. I mean, the breakup is not just with a relationship with a, you know, a partner or whatever, but it is a breakup with a family, and learning how
Yeah.
to go through those motions, like not easy,
Or a
but it's
religion or
doable.
friends.
Right.
I've had to break
Yes.
up with many different things, dreams. I mean, I was living in Australia for 5 years trying to get residency, and I
Hmm.
eventually had to break up with that goal as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of them do have this same strategies and same ways that you can cope, and the same dynamics as well. And if it's time to
Yeah.
break up with your family, that's okay.
Yeah. And you're there to help, which
Mhm.
is
I mean, we
awesome.
didn't ask for this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Mm,
And that's, I think it's the ones that are in this position that hurt the most, right? Like we're not
mm,
asking for it. We would love it to be completely different, but it can't be, unfortunately. And we have to stop hurting ourselves and move on and start respecting
mm.
ourselves. I think that's the number one thing, is giving ourselves the respect that we deserve. We don't
Yeah.
deserve to be treated that way. So give yourself that respect. You so
Mhm. And
deserve
it's
it.
very brave.
Yes, it is.
Mm,
Absolutely.
mm.
Absolutely.
A lot
The
of
thing is,
people are. Go ahead.
no, I'm just going to say, like, the thing is like, we only have one shot at this life on this planet. I mean,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
how can why are we letting somebody else create such misery for us?
Yep. Hmm.
It's not fair. You deserve
Hmm.
to be happy. You deserve to be loved. You deserve all that's good, you know?
And you're not
So yeah,
obligated to stay in these dysfunctional cycles because you're
no.
related to the
The,
person.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were going to go say something. I don't know if you.
Oh, I just wanted to mention there is this year, especially on TikTok, there has
Mhm.
been a lot, kind of a trend of people talking about family estrangement, especially amongst millennials. And a lot of people are taking to TikTok to discuss their decision to either go no contact or do family distancing. A lot of people have been really critical of the movement. I've
Mhm.
read a lot of articles on it in the past few months, some people calling it the worst millennial trend of the year. And I
Mhm.
just want to say, if anybody has been following that or knows that of this trend, that you need not judge the person who's speaking publicly about it, because
Mhm.
this is not anything that anybody would choose. This is not
No.
fun. This is something that people feel compelled to do because they don't feel like there's any other options. The reason
Right.
why it's being seen as a trend right now is not because more people are doing it either. There are more people who have no contact or limited contact with their family than people realize, because we haven't been given a space to speak about it
Mhm.
until very recently. This was seen as something that you would either keep to yourself or not admit, because there's a lot of backlash, a lot of bias against people who make this decision. And
Yeah.
so it's because there's safer spaces for
Mhm.
millennials and others to discuss it that it looks like it is a trend. And instead of judging anybody who's doing this, I think just consider that you have no idea their situation, but also
Yeah.
that this is something that's very painful and very brave to do, not
Absolutely.
to execute, not to mention speak about publicly. So I just
Mhm.
wanted to put that out there, because a lot of the media that I've read about it is um I suppose biased toward the person cutting off their family, and that
Right.
really bums me out. And so I just wanted
Mhm.
to really make sure to highlight that.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you doing that, because it is really important to know that, and yes, it is so hard. It's the hardest thing
Hmm.
probably you'll have to do, and it is so brave if you can do that. It really,
A lot of parents are publicly talking about being cut off from their
yeah,
children and trying to act as though they don't even know why their child has done this. But you need to, kind of look objectively at it. And this
yeah,
is perhaps the problem in the first place, is that a lot of parents don't want to take responsibility
that's right.
for their actions and will probably pretend that they don't know how they arrived at this. But
Yeah,
it's again emblematic of what of the entire family dynamic.
yeah. It's funny. It kind of reminds me a little bit of my mom passed away of cancer when she was 59 years old, and she didn't know she was dying. My dad didn't want us to tell her, but I think she knew in her heart. And she was always like kind of under my father's thumb, so she couldn't really. She worked for him, like he was. It was she didn't drive, like, so she was kind of stuck, and but so she sided with him, which was not the right parenting thing to do, but she did. And but the interesting thing was for me was I just wanted to be loved, right? Like I just wanted to be loved. And um so she passed away in June, but the previous October I was at her house down in New Orleans, and I was sitting there, and she had been diagnosed with brain cancer. And I remember her putting her arm around me and saying, "You know what, Linda? One of these days I'm going to write down everything that you mean to me." And I went, and she's like, "I love you, hun." And I was like, "Oh my God, these are the words I have waited for my entire life." My entire life. Well, she never got to write those things down because she deteriorated fairly quickly. And, but it's just, I was fortunate enough to get that closure with her, like seeing that it was something that she always wanted to express, but she couldn't express. And I had stayed away. I had moved. Well, I was living in Canada, but I had stopped communicating with them for a number of years. And finally, when she was diagnosed with cancer again, my brother said, "Linda, you're going to have to reach out." And so I did. But I am glad that I did in that respect. But yeah, it was just interesting, like how, I mean, even if it is one parent, might not be wanting to be in that position, not wanting to be so hurtful towards their child, it's still it's still not right. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
And it's still a
it's
choice.
it's still a choice, and we
Mm-hmm.
still have to walk away from it, like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard, but you have to walk away, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not an easy thing.
No, it's not. I mean, still, I have not really regrets, but I have pain around the decision and and remembering what it was like two years ago. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a journey. I did not send the email and then start skipping down the street. I sent the email and then I was full of grief actually over
Sure.
doing it. This is
Yeah.
not something easy. This is not something that people flippantly do. But
No.
it was still the right choice. But just like
Yeah.
grieving any relationship when it comes to the end,
Yes.
I definitely went through that journey with this as well.
Absolutely. And that's true. It's like I've lost friendships, and it's grief. It absolutely is grief. They're out of your lives. It's as
Mm-hmm.
though they're dead. It's grief. And it's
Yep,
very, very painful, and it takes a long time to get over that. A long, long time.
it
Uh,
does. And it takes a lot of courage to do it.
yeah.
And I want everyone to know that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's doable. It absolutely is doable.
Hmm.
And the most important thing is that you will learn to just be so much more at peace with yourself, and love yourself, and look in the mirror and just say, "Geez, I'm really proud of
Yeah.
you." You know,
Hmm.
like, it's a good thing. Yeah.
Yep, that's for sure.
Um, Any final thoughts at all, Janice, that you could give, especially with the holidays coming up? Like I say, I'm going to try and get this out as soon as possible because I think this is really, really important that people, like you say, maybe make the choice this year to not attend a family, the family dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, let you give some thought on that.
I think when you put yourself first, the rest falls into place. And so if you are feeling that this might be the year to create some distance, or if you have a gut feeling that maybe this is something that you would rather do, then go for it. And you will be amazed the snowball effect that this will create in your life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And if anybody out there wants to work with Janice, I mean, she's amazing, and I will put down all of the information where you can reach Janice. But yeah, please look at her Instagram page and all the information.
Yes, come over to
Instagram.
That's where I'm hanging out right now. I'd be so excited to hear from any of your listeners. Yes. Either breakups, leaving high demand religion, family estrangement. Let me know what you're being faced with, what you're breaking up with right now. I'd love to cheer you on or perhaps work with you.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you, my love.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you back. Oh, well, we'll have to figure out another reason to have you back on. Just
sure.
Just to catch up. Maybe we could do that.
Okay. I'd love that as well. Thank you so much, Linda.
All right, sweetie. Well, wishing you all the best for the rest of this year and the greatest 2025 to come. If I probably may not be speaking to you before then. So, but we will talk to you soon.
I'll hit you up by email.
There you go. Sounds cool. Sounds cool. All right, my love. Sending everybody lots and love and light today and always. And Janice, thanks once again. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You too.
Bye.